morning, One Love Consciousness Movement community. Thank you for being here. It is that time of week again. It is Sunday. And today is Inclusionist T-shirt Day. Josh Johnson and all of the group in California and the movement really that Josh started called I Consider All. And if you want to know more about I Consider All, please go to iconsiderall.com, .org, .net. I Consider All, and this is my inclusionist wear today. So welcome to One Love Consciousness Movement. This is a new month, and so in many ways it's a new season for us all, and I'm just so glad that you're here. We're starting a new series actually, and I'm actually going back and picking up a series that I shared I think 2 years ago, because it has expanded in me so much. Sometimes you want to circle back to some things that may have been blasted past before. And that's exactly how I felt about this series. This is called Making Sense of Life. And this is week 1. And the title of today's chat is How You Smellin'? How You Smellin'? And this is basically coming through the fire without becoming the fire. Coming through the fire without becoming the fire. And this really is based on a Bible story that I loved a lot as a kid. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But loved ones, today we begin a new series called Making Sense of Life. And over the next 5 weeks, we're going to be exploring how we experience life through our senses. Our smell, taste, touch, sight, hearing, all of the senses that we have for our sensations in this life. And we're going to simply not just talk about the 5 physical senses. It's about a deeper way or deeper ways that we receive life, we interpret life, and participate in life. Because life is always touching us. Life is always speaking to us. Life is always offering something to taste, something to see, something to hear, and yes, occasionally something to smell. I've said to you before, I'm somebody who gets into smells. I love them very much. I mentioned this back when I started this series a couple of years ago, that I never will forget my first trip to Lowe's Royal Pacific at Universal Studios. Carrie came up, had found this fantastic deal, and we went and stayed there. It was even during the pandemic. We went and stayed at this hotel, and there was a scent that they had with a diffuser, some kind of a essential oil diffuser, and it's a particular smell for all of the Lowe's resorts. And I was so impacted by it, loved the smell. It made me feel so good emotionally that I ended up getting that diffuser smell. Carrie found it months later online and utilizing it in my office at my church. So smells are vitally important. They can trigger memories and ideas. Our senses are built for those reasons, to gather information and to share and commune with others. The smell of food cooking, baking cookies during the holiday season, cakes, you name it, flowers, colognes, perfumes. There's a certain thing that scents do to us in our senses. So today we begin with a deeply spiritual question. How you smelling? I would say, if we were in the room together, turn to somebody and say, how you smelling? Ask them how you smelling. Maybe put in the comments how you smelling. Now, please understand that, you know, I'm not talking about whether you remember to wear deodorant this morning or not. I'm not asking about cologne or perfume. I'm talking about how you're showing up in this life, what kind of atmosphere you may be bringing into this life. I'm asking, what is the atmosphere, smell your life is carrying? What lingers in a room after you leave? What kind of scent and fragrance does your life leave behind when you are gone from a space? When people encounter you, do they experience the fragrance of love, authenticity, compassion, courage, and peace? Or are you still carrying smoke out of every fire that you have survived? And that's not a question of judgment. I'm not asking a judgmental question. It's a question of awareness, because all of us have been through some fires. All of us have experienced something that left a smell on us. Betrayal has a smell. Rejection has a scent, a smell. Grief has a smell. Shame has a smell. Religious trauma has a smell. Being lied to, manipulated, abandoned, excluded, mistreated, that can leave something lingering in your nervous system long after the event itself has ended. Sometimes the fire is over, but the smell remains. And you are no longer in that relationship, but you still expect that somebody's going to betray you. You're no longer in that church, but your body still tightens around religious language. You're no longer a powerless child, but a part of you still responds as though you have no choices. You're no longer in the emergency, but your nervous system is still scanning the room for smoke. You've left the fire, metaphorically, the house that was on fire, but you still have that scent trailing behind you. The fire may be behind you, but something within you still smells as though you are standing in it. And today, life is not condemning us for that. Life is inviting us into such a healing that we no longer have the smell of that smoke on us, because what happened to you may explain your pain, but it does not have to become who you are. Now, I mentioned to you earlier, this is inspired by a story. There's a powerful story in the 3rd chapter of Daniel in the Bible. And it's about 3 Hebrew men, traditionally. They were known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they were living under the rule of King Nebuchadnezzar at the time. He was a powerful king who constructed a massive golden image, and then he commanded that everyone bow before it. Sound familiar? And when the music played, every person was expected to kneel. The king was not simply asking for cooperation, he was demanding conformity. Sound familiar? He was saying, you will honor what I honor. You will believe what I believe. You will bow to what I have created and put my name on. You will surrender your inner authority to my external power. But there was something about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that caused them to refuse. They refused. They would not betray what was sacred within them, just to satisfy the expectations of the power around them. So they chose principle over pressure. They chose an inner alignment of their highest truth over external approval. They chose authenticity over acceptance. Nebuchadnezzar was furious about that one. The story in the Bible says that his attitude toward them shifted immensely, and even his face, he was so angry, his face became distorted with rage. Have you ever watched, this is a question for you to consider within yourself. Have you ever watched someone's attitude change toward you because you finally established boundaries? Everything was fine as long as you were bowing. Everything was fine as long as you agreed. Everything was okay as long as you remained quiet, you remained compliant, available, and easy to control. But the moment you said, this is not true for me, the temperature in the room changed. The moment that you stopped performing the version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable, somebody turned up the heat. And in this particular story, Nebuchadnezzar commanded that the fiery furnace that they used to heat up bricks and mortar and other things like that, that fiery furnace be heated up 7 times hotter than usual and that the three men be bound and thrown into the flames. He was going to burn them alive because they had refused to bow to his belief system. But then something extraordinary in the story happens. The king looks into the furnace and asks, "Hey, didn't we throw three men into the fire bound?" And his advisors answered, "Yes, your majesty." And the king said, "But I see not three, but four people walking around free in that fire, and they're not bound. They are unharmed. And the fourth one looks like a divine being." In the story in the church I grew up in, the fourth one looks like the Son of God. That's what it says in one of the translations of the Bible. Did you catch that? They entered the fire bound, but inside the fire, they began walking around free. The fire that was intended to destroy them, and according to the story, did in fact destroy, it was so hot that the guards who threw them into the fire died of heat stroke. What was intended to destroy them only burned away what had been used to bind them. That'll preach all by itself. Sometimes the fire does not destroy you. Sometimes it reveals what cannot be destroyed. Sometimes the experience that you thought would end your life becomes the place where a deeper life begins. Sometimes what was meant to diminish you becomes the ground from which a freer self emerges out of you. The king called them out of the furnace after seeing this. The leaders gathered around them and saw that the fire had not consumed their bodies. It had not consumed their clothes. Their hair had not been singed. And then we receive this really interesting detail from the scripture. There was no smell of smoke on them. They had been in the fire, but the fire was not in or on them. They had experienced the flames, but the flames did not become their identity. They did not have to deny where they had been. They did not have to pretend the furnace was pleasant. They didn't have to call the fire good in order to prove that God was good. They simply discovered that the fire did not possess the authority to name them. They were not identified as the fire. Loved ones, healing is not pretending that you were never in the fire. Healing is discovering that the fire does not get to name you. That calls for an amen right there. It's not about not experiencing the fire and the flame, but it's saying the fire of my experiences are not going to identify me. They're not going to name me. Now, it's important that you don't spiritualize away the smoke. Now we have to be careful with this story. If we are not careful, we can turn "there was no smell of fire on them" into another form of spiritual pressure. We can make people believe that if they are truly spiritual, they should never appear hurt. They should never feel angry. They should never grieve, maybe never even struggle. They should walk out of the worst experience of their lives smiling and quoting affirmations and telling everybody it's all good. But everything is not always good. Some things hurt like hell. Some experiences change our life forever. Some losses leave us disoriented. Some betrayals make it difficult to trust again. The truth is that some of the fires we go through leave real wounds that deserve real attention. Anger is not proof that you have failed spiritually. Please hear that. Anger is not proof you failed spiritually. Grief is not evidence that you lack faith. Pain does not mean that you have fallen out of alignment. Sometimes anger is a part of is the part of you that knows something sacred has been violated. Sometimes grief is love learning how to live in a new form. Sometimes your nervous system is not being negative, it's trying to protect you based on what it has previously experienced. The goal is not to shame the smoke, the goal is to become curious about it. What happened? What did it awaken in me? What is my body still holding? What belief did I form in the fire? What part of my identity became organized around surviving it? We do not heal by pretending the fire never happened. We heal by allowing the experience to be acknowledged, to be felt, to be understood, integrated, and eventually released in some way. That is what it means, in my opinion, to metabolize an experience. You know, when the body metabolizes food, it takes in what is useful and releases what no longer needs or was unnecessary to stay. Emotional and spiritual healing work in a similar way. We receive the experience, we acknowledge what happened, we extract the wisdom, we allow it to deepen us, and we release what does not belong in the life we are creating now. So the thing is, you can carry wisdom without carrying the smoke. Type in the comments, I can carry wisdom without carrying the smoke. Will you do that? Type that into the comments. I can carry wisdom without carrying the smoke. Now, the first movement of healing is to name what happened. Not to exaggerate it, not to minimize it, not to spiritualize it. Name it. I was betrayed. I was abandoned. I was abused. I was manipulated. I was taught to fear God. I was expected to disappear in order to belong. Here's one. I stayed longer than I should have because I did not believe I deserved better. How about this one for somebody? I abandoned myself to keep someone else from abandoning me. There's power in honest language. As long as an experience remains unnamed, it often continues to operate from the shadows. Naming it brings it into the light. But naming what happened does not mean building a permanent home inside of that story. You can tell the truth without turning the truth into the truth of really what happened into the total truth of who you are. Yes, I was betrayed is honest. Everyone will betray me is the smoke. Yes, I experienced rejection. That's honest. I am unworthy of love is the smoke. Yes, I was powerless in that moment. May be honest. I will always be powerless, though, is the smoke. We name what happened so that we can separate the event from the identity we constructed around the event. You went through rejection. You are not rejection. You experienced failure. You are not failure. You survived abuse, but you are not what someone did to you. You walked through the fire, but your name is not burned. Your name is still love. Your name is still divine. Your name is still whole. Your name is still becoming. And so we feel what happened. The second movement is to feel what happened. This may be the part many spiritual people try to skip. Because here's the thing, we want to move directly from pain to purpose. We want to go from crucifixion to resurrection without ever spending any time in the tomb or the womb. We want to affirm our way out of feelings, the feelings that we've never allowed ourselves to feel. But unfelt pain does not disappear. Actually, unfelt pain most of the time ends up becoming anxiety, defensiveness, numbness. Maybe it's a hyper independence, people pleasing. Come on now. It becomes perfectionism, control, or a body that remains prepared for a fire that ended years ago. Feeling does not mean drowning in the pain. It means allowing the pain to move. Emotion is energy in motion. So when you allow the pain to move, that's what an emotion is doing. It is emoting. It is energy in motion. Grief needs somewhere to go. Anger needs a safe form of expression. Fear needs compassion. The younger self within us needs to know that someone is finally listening. And sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is stop trying to be inspirational and just get honest. I want to say that again for somebody out there who's listening. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop trying to be inspirational and finally become honest. To be able to say, this hurt me. I'm angry. I miss them. I thought my life would look different. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Feelings are not final destinations. They are visitors carrying information. You can welcome the feeling without handling it too long that you give it too much authority in your life. You can welcome feeling without handing it the keys to your entire house. You can say, anger, I hear you. Grief, you may sit with me. Fear, I understand why you came. But none of you gets to define the whole of who I am. Receive a deep breath if you would. Feel your body for a moment. Notice whether there is any place within you that is still bracing against the old fire. No judgment, no pressure, just awareness. And then let your body know the fire is not happening right now. I am here. I have choices. I am listening, and I will not abandon myself. Now, the third movement in the healing process is to learn from what happened. This is not the same as saying everything happens for a reason. I really want to give distinction because I hear that a lot. Everything happens for a reason. I've said it a lot. Everything happens for a reason. This is not the same. Some things happen because people make harmful choices. Some things happen because systems are unjust. We know that to be true. Some things happen because human beings are unconscious. We know that to be true. Some things happen because life is simply unpredictable. We do not need to assign a divine purpose to every painful event. But even when the experience did not happen for a sacred reason, we can still create sacred meaning from it. The question is not only, why did this happen to me? But I think the deeper question, with more wisdom potential in it, the deeper question is, what is becoming possible through me now? What did the fire reveal? Did it reveal that you had been betraying yourself to maintain belonging? Did it reveal the need for stronger boundaries? Did it reveal courage you did not know you possessed? Did it reveal which relationships were built on mutual love and which were dependent upon your compliance? Man, did it reveal the difference between being needed and being loved? Maybe it revealed your survival strategies were once intelligent, but no longer necessary. The wisdom is not that you should be grateful for being harmed. The wisdom is that the harm does not get to have the final word. The fire may have introduced you to parts of yourself that you had never met. It may have introduced you to your voice. It may have introduced you to your courage, your discernment, your capacity to begin again. Maybe your ability to walk away. It introduced you to your willingness to choose yourself, your realization that the divine presence was not standing outside the furnace watching from a safe distance. The presence was walking through the fire with you, through you, as you. The fourth figure did not prevent them from entering the furnace. The fourth figure joined them within the furnace. That is a different understanding of divine presence. God is not always the force that keeps difficult experiences from happening to us or around us. Sometimes God is the presence within us that cannot be destroyed by what has happened to us. The presence that whispers, you're still here. You're still whole beneath the wound. You're still more life within you. The fire is real, but it is not ultimate. Pat yourself on the chest and say, the fire is real, but it's not ultimate. That'll preach right there. Type that into the comments. The fire is real, but it is not ultimate. Now it's time to release what no longer belongs to you. The fourth movement in healing is to release what no longer belongs to you. Notice that we do not begin with release. No, we don't begin there. We name it. We feel it. We learn. Then we release. Otherwise, letting go can just become another way of avoiding what needs our attention in our life. But there comes a time when the identity that helped you survive begins to prevent you from living. The armor protected you in the furnace, but you cannot embrace anyone while wearing it forever. Suspicion kept you alert. Thank you, suspicion, but it may now be keeping love at a distance. That hyper-independence, I don't need anybody, prevented you from being disappointed, but it may also be preventing you now from receiving support. Yes, silence kept you safe in one season, but now it may be suffocating your truth. Some things were necessary for survival, but are not compatible with freedom. Selah, as it says in the Psalms and the Bible. Some things were necessary for your survival, but are not compatible with freedom. Thank them, honor them, and then release them. You might say, thank you, fear, for trying to protect me. Thank you, anger, for revealing where my boundaries were violated. Thank you, vigilance, for helping me survive an unsafe environment. But I am not living there anymore. I no longer need to carry this into every room I enter. I release what belonged to the furnace back to the furnace, and I reclaim what belongs to me. Now, nurse it, curse it, rehearse it, and reverse it. Years ago, when I first shared this message, I used 4 phrases: nurse it, curse it, rehearse it, and reverse it. That came from inspiration from my friend Bishop Dr. D.E. Paulk. And I still believe there is something very valuable here in that, but I understand it differently today. To nurse the pain is to keep feeding an identity. And it's to keep feeding an identity that was organized around what happened. To curse the pain is to remain locked in warfare with the past, wishing it had been different. To rehearse the pain is to replay it so frequently that the body experiences the old fire as a present reality. But reversal does not mean denying the story. Reversal does not mean the universe, magically erases the consequences. Reversal does not mean everything is restored to the way it was before. Sometimes you're not meant to be back to who you were before the fire. In fact, most of the time not. Sometimes the reversal is that the person who entered the fire, bound, no less, emerges with greater freedom. Reversal means the past no longer determines the direction of your becoming. Reversal means the wound becomes an opening through which compassion enters the world. Reversal means the boundary you once feared establishing becomes an expression of self-love in your life. Reversal means what was meant to silence you becomes the ground from which you discover your voice. Reversal means the experience that taught you not to trust anyone eventually teaches you how to trust yourself. What happened remains part of your story, but it is no longer controlling the storyteller. That is reversal. It remains a part of your story, but it is not controlling the storyteller. Now, the fifth movement in this. The fifth movement is to carry the wisdom without carrying the smoke. Smoke has a way of traveling. You can leave the place where the fire occurred and still carry its scent into every environment. That is how an old wound enters a new relationship. A new person says something that sounds slightly like what the previous person said, and suddenly you're no longer responding only to this moment, you're responding to every moment that came before it. And the body says, I know where this leads. And perhaps you do not actually. This may be a new moment. This may be a different person. And you are certainly not the same person you were before. You now have language. You now have boundaries. You now have awareness. You have choices. You have a deeper relationship with yourself. You can pause before reacting and ask, is there a fire here now? Or am I smelling smoke from an earlier season of my life? That question can change everything for you. It does not mean ignoring genuine danger. Discernment matters, but discernment is different from assuming that every spark will become the same fire. Your history can inform you without imprisoning you. Your past can educate you without controlling you. Did you know that your wounds can deepen your compassion without becoming your identity? You can remember without reliving. You can honor what happened without recreating it. You can carry the lesson without carrying the atmosphere. You know, there's a passage in the Christian scriptures, and it speaks of carrying the fragrance of Christ. I do not hear that as religious performance. I hear it as an invitation to carry the fragrance of awakened love, not artificial sweetness, not forced positivity, not pretending we never struggle. The fragrance of Christ is what begins to emerge when the survival self loosens its grip and divine presence becomes more available through us. It smells like compassion that has known suffering. It smells like strength that does not need to dominate. It smells like boundaries without bitterness. It smells like truth without cruelty. It smells like grief that has softened into tenderness, and it smells like someone who has been through the fire and no longer needs to set everyone else on fire to prove how badly they were burned. Some people are still burning everyone around them because no one ever taught them how to tend the fire within themselves. But that cycle can end with us. We can say, I will not hand this pain to the next generation. I will not make a new relationship pay for what happened in an old one. I will not confuse bitterness with boundaries. I will not confuse emotional numbness with peace. I will not pretend the fire did not happen, but I will not become the fire. And that's the invitation today. Not to deny your humanity, not to rush through your healing, not to shame yourself for still smelling smoke sometimes, but to keep walking, keep breathing, keep allowing love to reach the places that learn to expect pain and disappointment. Loved ones, you have survived things that could have closed your heart. You have walked through seasons that changed you. You have known disappointment. You've known rejection and grief and betrayal and confusion and fear. You do not have to minimize any of that, but neither must you build your permanent identity around it. You were in the fire, but you are not the fire. You carry scars, but you are not merely what wounded you. You remember what happened, but you are not condemned to repeat it over and over again. There was a fourth presence walking with you. There was something within you that the flames could not consume. Something sacred, something whole, something free. And perhaps you are now emerging from the fire. Not as the person you were before, but as someone more honest, more compassionate, more discerning, more deeply rooted in the truth of who you are. Healing is not returning to the person you were before the fire. Healing is becoming the person who now knows the fire cannot take your essence. So how you smelling? Maybe there is still a little smoke. That's okay. Healing has no deadline, but beneath the smoke, there is another fragrance emerging. The fragrance of courage, the fragrance of self-trust, the fragrance of compassion, the fragrance of authenticity, the fragrance of a life that has been refined but not defined by what it endured. Name what happened, feel what happened, learn from what happened, release what no longer belongs to you, carry the wisdom without carrying the smoke, and remember, healing is not pretending that you were never in the fire. Healing is discovering that the fire does not get to name you. So here's a closing affirmation, and I'll ask you to consider repeating this after me. I acknowledge the fire through which I have walked. I honor what I felt, what I lost, and what I learned. I release the belief that my pain is my identity. What happened to me is part of my story, but it is not the whole truth of who I am. I carry the wisdom without carrying the smoke. I allow grief to soften me, truth to strengthen me, and love to restore me. The fire does not name me. Fear does not define me. My past does not control my becoming. I am still here. I am still whole. I am still divine. And I am free to emerge. And so the question for today is, how you smelling? Thank you for joining, and thank you for being a part of this community. I hope you'll be with us for this entire series, and then we're going to be moving into our Spirit Expressing season. Yes, those of you who are a part of the One Love community are invited to be a part of our book study that's coming up. There's going to be ways announced for you to do that. You can also visit the website firstunity.org and find out more about it. We're going to be using my book, Becoming the New Human. And that's going to be a group study that will be in person, but also by Zoom. So those of you who are distanced are welcome to join. I love you very much. I'm going to get up out of here now. Go and make it a great week just because you can. Peace.
Whoa.